Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Indie Radio presents Talking About Walkers, the Walking Dead podcast, the show that breaks down all new episodes of your favorite zombie TV show right here on indieradio.org. And now, here are the hosts of the podcast, Kinte, Jen, and Olaf. Hello, and welcome to an all-new episode of Talking About Walkers. I am one of your hosts, Kinte, all the way live from Los Angeles, California, and I'm happy to be with you here today. And we're going to talk some Walking Dead, of course. So let me introduce my co-host before we get it going. I'm going to start off with the one and only. I'm going to start ladies first. Jen, how you doing, Jen?
Hey, I'm doing good. I don't know if you heard, but it snowed on Maui.
Yeah, does that mean Jesus is coming back?
I think it does. I'm pretty sure. Actually, it's either that or Candyman is coming.
I think some people might even want Candyman more than they want our Lord and Savior.
Well, maybe if we have a combination of the both of them, it'll be fun.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said maybe if we have a combination of both of them, it'll be fun.
Hey, you never know. You never know who he might roll with. Well, I'm glad that you are here. And you recently did something pretty cool. If you don't mind sharing with the audience what you did.
Oh, well, I do so many cool things. Can you narrow it down to one of the cool things I've done?
This one was not done on land.
Oh, yes. Well, here on Maui, we have these awesome visitors that come to our waters every winter. They're called the humpback whales, and they have their babies here. So we went out on a whale watch, and we hung out and watched all of the whales. There were tons of baby whales. There was pods of dolphins. You know, you get to kind of hang out and make fun of the tourists. It's awesome. We really did have a good time.
It's fun unless you're one of the tourists getting bullied by you.
Well, we don't bully them in earshot. We just, snark at them and send each other text messages. It's kind of cool. The age of technology has really opened up a whole new door in snark.
Well, more like a whole age of bullying.
We didn't bully any of the tourists. We just made fun of their goofy hats and their socks with sandals. That's all.
Not that they know of that you made fun of them.
We wouldn't do that. We love our tourists. They are the most awesome people when they come to Maui. And everybody when they're watching whales is pretty much equal anyway.
Oh, okay. I see. That's how it goes. Well, I'm glad that you are here, and I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So, Olaf, let's talk about you. How you been? It's been a minute.
Oh, I've been doing good. It's like busy as always. It's like it's always like a another great day in the great state of Indiana. It's like where we can't decide whether it's going to rain, snow, freeze, or be suntan lotion weather. We get all three in the same day most times.
Hilarious.
So doing good, and tonight I come to you from a different location than I have been. It's like I've actually managed to almost take residence in my house that I've been working on for 2 years.
All right. All right, and you're working on getting my room ready, right?
Yes, I got to. It's like your room is ready, and Kinte, like I showed you your room. It has a very open air concept to the
room. With friends like you.
Well, now see that's like, but see now think of it this way, because that room is you'll be another stud in that room.
Right. Stud in your room. Hilarious.
The really fun part about this is my childhood home. This is where I grew up at. So I've lived in this house for a good number of years, lived out of it for a good number of years, and now I'm back in it again.
All right. Well, the same thing here. I'm in my childhood home as well. So
I
this
hope
was
to never see my childhood home ever again because they get snow. I mean, no.
well, when you're still a child, it it's probably good that you're in your childhood home.
Oh, are you guys going through your second childhood? Is that what you're trying to say? Because that's kind of cool.
Pretty much. I haven't grown up yet.
I
Uh,
I've I've never gotten out of my first childhood, so how can I go through my second childhood?
Oh wow, that's a long childhood, Olaf.
Yeah, it's like I ain't never. I said I refuse to grow up. It's like I've seen what grown-ups have to go through. I ain't doing it. Mm-mm.
I don't never want to grow up.
We're gonna send Olaf all the adulting memes. Everybody, send Olaf 100 adulting memes.
Bill Maher is gonna fillet you. All right, sorry about that. Having a little audio problems, fixing that. But no, so I'm so glad that we are here and looking forward to chopping it up about this episode. So let's talk about it. We're talking about episode 9 of season 9.
No, we're talking about episode 10 of
I'm
season
sorry,
9.
episode 10 of. Thank you. I'm
You're
glad
welcome.
one of us has our thinking caps on tonight.
I
Episode
write
10.
reviews, so
Right, right.
gotta get with it.
Episode 10 of season 9 of The Walking Dead. And this episode is entitled Omega. And I believe the last episode was Alpha, right?
It was.
Yes. So this episode is told through flashbacks as well as present day action as well. And in this episode, I really believe that the thing is that we're trying to get to a point where we accept Daryl Dixon as the the lead, because remember, a lot of us, we questioned whether or not Daryl had it in him, to do this. Well, I didn't, fans. It was all Olaf. It wasn't me. Send that hate mail to Olaf.
That's Olaf Barbosa at hotmail.com.
Right. Okay, I'll take some of as well. So I think this aspect. No, I'm sorry. The last episode was in fact called uh,
Oh,
Adaptation. My
adaptation.
bad. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna get hate mail for not knowing that. But so anyway, going back to this episode, it seems pretty clear that's what they're trying to get you to believe for season 10, that he's gonna make this leap. And Daryl at times has used his brain. When you say he's used his brain a couple of times.
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah, so far.
Right. I mean, he uses his head for not just a hat rack at times. Um, and so this one, we're supposed to believe he's cunning, and he's going to come up with, the plan to figure out our prisoner here. So let's talk about the flashbacks and what they ultimately add up to. And we'll start off with you, Jen. What do you make of the way that this episode was told? And let's just focus on the flashback aspect of it. What did you think about it?
Well, first off, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. First off, I have to say that this is a better use of flashbacks than I've seen them used before, because a lot of times when they use flashbacks, they're trying to convey information that maybe isn't quite relevant to the timeline. It might be relevant to the character, but it's not quite relevant to the timeline. And this really worked well. The other thing that I really liked about it was if you watch the flashbacks, you can see a lot of cool visual cues where Lydia is struggling with her memory. So it's kind of nice. They did a good job. I was very impressed by that. Secondly, the flashbacks themselves in terms of content, what was really interesting to me was the way that I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this before, but my brother and I will sit down at the kitchen table and we'll be talking about something that's happened in our childhood, and he has a completely different memory of what happened than I do. And he will fill in bits that I can't fill in. And what I found so fascinating about this was not just is she trying to like fill in the gaps and she can only sort of get to the really important things, but the fact that the memory is sort of misconstrued a bit backwards, of a lot backwards, is something that even if Alpha hadn't done that, it's still such an interesting perspective to use with a child's flashback. I mean, I actually felt like it was authentic to the way that a kid might see things. Did you guys feel that way too?
Yeah, I thought it was very well done. And like I said, we've criticized the show quite a bit, but I have to definitely say that I thought it was really good, very well done. What about you, Olaf?
Yeah, it's like yeah, I agree. The use of the flashbacks this time, it's like it kind of made sense, and it was not just like what in the world are you doing there? It had no place being there. So I think they did. Yeah, they did a good job with this time.
Yes. Um, Let me say this about this episode in particular. Uh, I really enjoyed the dialogue as well, and the emotional points in it as well. Because I think sometimes this show, unfortunately, when it gets to some of the emotional scenes, it doesn't always hit the mark. But I thought this one very well, and I think adding, I mean, they kind of went over some backstory with Daryl that we've gone over before, but I think in this way, I love the presentation of it. Um, I thought that it was definitely well done and well, it wasn't just to kind of go over his backstory, and what he went through. I felt like it had purpose in this episode, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Well, in when you do character expose, a lot of times it's real easy to go overboard where you become um, almost annoyed by the character's backstory because the writers are trying to hit you over the head with how terrible things are. And in this episode, okay, so we get it, right? Things actually were pretty terrible, but when you put it into sort of a juxtaposition with Daryl's backstory, it's so interesting because, and also they slipped in Carol's too.
Right.
Um, that whole thematic piece of domestic violence feels like it is, and I wrote this actually, but it's just because the zombie apocalypse is happening doesn't mean that people are basically changing all that much. The idea that there is still this insidiousness, that people can still be mean to each other, or that the scars that people are carrying from the pre-apocalypse still carry over to the post-apocalypse, is a pretty powerful one. I really, I liked that theme. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very well done. And I felt like, some of these characters we got to know even better, and it was I like where it's going. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I do. I definitely agree. I have moments where I doubt how they will bring Daryl back into sort of the good graces of hey, I can be a leader instead of just a loner outside by myself. But it's okay. So I got to start with this in the in the comics. It's Carl that has this relationship with Lydia, and Lydia ultimately becomes her or his girlfriend. And for a while there, I couldn't figure out how they were going to do it. But what I find sort of nice in this is that there's the Lydia part of this, there's the Daryl piece to it, which sort of allows Daryl to be less not less tough, but more interactive with people because he shares commonality with them. And when Henry said to Daryl, "Hey, I'm really glad that you're still my friend's mom," it it something, I don't know, it's something seemed really important about that. I don't know exactly what it was, but it felt like they were like pulling Daryl over toward the Henry Carroll side of things in maybe a slightly different way than we have seen before, right? Does that make sense?
No, no, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I liked it. Go ahead.
Like I say, yeah, it does. Yeah, it makes sense. But it does make sense what they're doing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Henry. This season's been big for Henry. Obviously, we really get to know him, and I don't know if he's kind of replaced Carl or Chandler as the young guy to kind of focus on. And so my question to you guys is, are we buying Henry as a viable character that we'll care about going forward?
I
Well,
I kind of think that he will be because, like I said, the way they're building him, or the way they're like I said building him, the way they're introducing him and stuff and bringing him in, I think he could actually become a viable character in the series.
Okay. What about you?
so here's the thing, right? I mean, like, I don't want to draw equivalence between Chandler and, well, I don't want to draw equivalence between Carl's character and Henry, but I will say that it it's disturbing that the show chose to write Carl out of the script while replacing him with Henry.
Mhm.
It I don't really understand what that logic was about. And I will add that Henry definitely feels like his own character. I don't get the Carl 2.0 vibe from him at all. Henry has a much simpler sort of outlook, maybe because Henry hasn't seen quite as much as Carl did out on the road. But there's something still innocently opportunistic about Henry, which feels refreshing because we have so much jaded cynicism and distrust. And I mean, Michonne is one giant bucket full of cynicism and distrust. And so it's nice to have a counterbalance to that, which I don't think Carl ever would have been, because of all the stuff that he's been through already. But don't you guys find it a little bit odd that they sort of like, I don't know, not that they switched places, but that they, came up with the lead and put in Henry instead of Carl?
No, no, yeah. There was an article that just came out that I had been meaning to read, where as Chandler Riggs' father talks about his son uh, leaving the show, and I decided, you know what, I while you were talking, that I wanted to bring it up, uh, or I mean, look it up so I can say, kind of add to that. I don't know if you were aware of this, right? Did you read it?
No.
Okay, it says, let's see. He wanted to clarify that Chandler didn't want to leave the show. And the actor father said that Gimple personally called Chandler and said the show needed his services for 3 more years, which led to Chandler signing a 2-year contract with a 1-year option. Afterwards, Chandler bought a house near the set, enrolled in the University of Georgia,
Oh God.
and all of this. And it was in the middle of June, his 18th birthday was coming up. 5 episodes were filmed, and they asked my wife and I both be at a meeting with Chandler, which was a little odd. And let me go down. And then Scott Gimple was the only one there, and told us that Charles that Carl will be gone in a few episodes. And he said Chandler was absolutely devastated. I was disappointed that Scott had been dishonest with the 17-year-old,
Oh, jeez.
making life decisions in front of us and waited to tell us. That's not the first time they've done this on this show. I mean, they, like
Is that
that
what you,
same thing happened to so.
is that when you go, oops, sorry?
Yeah, and they did it to not Sophia. Uh, oh, what's her name? The blonde who was messing with the governor.
Oh,
Uh,
Andrea. Andrea.
Andrea.
Andrea, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They did the same thing basically to her. It wasn't Gimple though, but they told her because she wanted to know if she should buy a house and all of that. And they said, "Oh yeah, you're going to be on at least to season 8." And then they killed her the same year. It's like I guess if you start asking about your future, that means that
So,
don't buy the house because
so the secret is don't ask how long you're going to be on because you'll be wrote off quickly.
yeah. So he but there's more to it, and I'll put these in the show notes.
Well,
But
okay,
that's
so
interesting.
so observation, right? Because I really was one of the strongest people to say I really didn't like Carl's character. I didn't like how they formed him.
Me
I
neither.
didn't like what they did with the character when they got to the point where he should have been evolving, and I'm not even sure what they were trying to do. I feel like Carl was a lost orphan in the show itself, not as a character, but as giving thought. I mean, Carl got more consideration after his death than he did for 3 seasons before it. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's something so messed up about it. However, I, I can say that and say, I also really don't like the way that they just shoehorned Henry into Carl's roles because, if that's the way that they are going to run the show, then that feels like no character has any kind of play with, like, we shouldn't really even bother to want to get to know or feel anything for any of the characters, not just because, look, if you get eaten by a zombie, yes, okay, but these arbitrary choices behind the scenes, they really sort of kill what goodwill you have for the show. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. And I thought that moment should have been bigger as far as like it should have really had an impact. His death, and it did. I mean, to a certain degree with the core fans, but it wasn't that awe moment. Where when you kill off somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like it was only big in the fact that he was a character from the beginning that that a lot of fans love. But as far as his death was just kind of, ho hum to me.
Well, everybody, I'm not saying that Rick and Michonne did, because Rick and Michonne didn't move on really fast, right? Because there were some episodes that did pretty good follow up with that.
Mhm.
But all the other cast, it felt like Carl who?
Right.
And it was like, what? Wait a minute, guys. It just felt so disingenuous from a writing perspective, and I honestly can say that it felt like they were being petty and personal, not like they were being, no, we need this for the artistic strength of the show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it wasn't. I think it was definitely an opportunity gone. I mean, if you're gonna do it, which we're fine with him. Them doing what they feel like they need to do, but
Right,
it
right.
just it didn't really have an impact to me.
It should have meant more. And then also, on top of that, we probably shouldn't just try to throw Henry into all of Carl's roles. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's too obvious.
you guys are awesome writers, or at least I am feeling that way through this season. There's no reason that you couldn't have created the Lydia storyline to do something a little bit different than have a male protagonist be at her side to sort of rescue her. do the 21st century thing and have Lydia rescue herself. Do whatever. I'm not saying that there's any one case to be had, but there are many ways to write out of this that don't need to artificially throw Henry into something that maybe he really isn't tailored for.
But I would say this though. I mean, I don't have a problem with him rescuing her in a way because she needs a lifeline into the group. And so if she did it by herself, I
But that
don't.
could have been Daryl. It could have been Daryl could have taken her as, his not protege, but someone that he cared about, someone that he felt simpatico with because of their shared past abuse. I don't know. Like, I feel like there could have been a lot of different scenarios for it to work. Again, I'm not, who knows? It might turn out great, and maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised by what the Henry Lydia storyline does. This is only the very beginning. I only just realized that that's where they were going and remembered the comics and all that. But it does just feel a little, I don't know, too thrown together. Too, ultimately, this whole episode, although it was good and I really did like it, it still felt incredibly contrived. From the very first moment that stuff was happening, it felt like I could have told you what was going to happen 10 minutes before everything happened. And I don't like that. That actually bugs me. So,
Jen just is against love. That's all.
yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Me and Olaf,
Unless it's
we're all
whales
for love.
or
Well,
Zach.
yeah, or Zach.
Or Zach in Wales. I don't know.
Oh man. But yeah, so I don't know, but you bring up some great points, and I don't know, maybe the producers and the writers have like they owe some kind of debt to the Lentz family where they have to cast their kids or something like that because it's like maybe that's what this is. They're paying off some kind of mob debt to
Oh
the Lentz
God.
family. So
It sounds just as plausible as any other idea. So yeah, let's go with that.
oh man. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, if they were doing that, then I guess Brighton's family didn't make a good enough deal with them or something.
Oh, she's next. She's gonna replace Carol. So,
Oh no.
uh, but I don't know. Like honestly, I'm not in love with his character to be honest. Hey, honestly, to be honest, but we'll see. We shall see how this all plays out. Um,
I like Henry, but to be totally honest, I feel like he is just way too sweet for the zombie apocalypse. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I just feel like he's so innocent, and so the way that they make him, he just doesn't seem like he's tough enough for what's going to come up. But I don't know, maybe this is a good way to grow him.
yeah. Hey, when you start getting your little girlfriend, you start getting that man hair on your chest.
It's true.
Talk,
Hey, he
talk
ate
about tough
worms.
love. It's like talk about tough love.
Yeah.
Any guy that eats worms with me is like instantly bonded. So
Oh wow. Okay,
there's
fellas,
that.
if you want to get close to Jen, bring her not a KFC bucket of chicken, but a KFC bucket of worms. She's your girl. So okay, so before we get to the very end, is there anything I'm talking about the very last scene? I know we had a little side thing with the newer characters and all of that. Um, is there anything you want to get to, especially Jen, before we get
Well,
to the final scene?
okay, so I do just want to say that little side quest,
Mhm.
where they go out to find Luke and Alden. What was interesting to me about that dynamic was specifically not that they went out again, but that they defied Tara to do it. And
Mhm.
it was very clear that as we sort of close around to go back toward the end, that when Tara said, "Look, I'm not 100% sure how to do everything. If you've got a problem with my leadership, then just come to me." It purposefully, I think, felt like she is really spongy on a lot of stuff, and she doesn't know exactly what to do or what the best way is to do it. But she had foresight enough to go send guards out to go find them, and that to me felt like that was sort of a step up on her part, a step up in her own leadership style. So that little dynamic, that little side dynamic felt very important to kind of pay attention to as things progress. um I mean, clearly everybody loves Luke and Alden, right? I don't even know why we love Luke and Alden, but we do. And nobody wanted to see them, get hurt or whatever. And so everybody can understand why they all go out. But I just feel like if these people have been on the road for as long as they have been on the road, they wouldn't go out in the middle of the night. That's my 2 cents. I feel like, I mean, yay for Tara for stepping up to the plate and, doing her leadership thing. But I mean, at that point, I would be like, okay, guys, hit the road. You can't be leaving here at night.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't.
That's just asking for trouble to go out looking at nighttime.
Right. I'm glad I'm not the only one to think that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to play this clip. I'm gonna play a clip, and that kind of you're gonna hear it. Okay, no, you're not gonna hear the crazy sound. It's okay. I think I can get away with playing this clip because it's short. It is pretty short. You're like, can we see the clip? Okay, here we go. I'm gonna play this clip. Hopefully they will not get me for it because it's very short. All right, here we go.
And that includes you guys too.
I'm Alpha. And we only want one thing from you. My daughter.
All right. So they only want one thing, and that's their daughter. So
Lydia lied.
Big time.
I mean, not that we should all be surprised, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't blame her.
If I had a mom like Alpha, I don't know if I think I'd be saying, no, they're going to move on. And just pray that they did.
So what do you think? What do you think, man?
It's gonna get interesting is what I thought.
I mean, she looks pretty formidable. How is she in the comic books?
Oh, she's fierce. Yeah. I mean, I have to say that this is I know a lot of people who don't like this storyline in the comics, but I
Mhm.
really like it. I like it because it's not just the same. Um, the show does a good job with female empowerment. The comics it's a little all over the place, but when they do strong women and they do them well,
Pause.
they jump off the page. They just do a really good job. Um, the one thing that she is not Negan. So, before anybody starts jumping to the Negan storyline, this is not the Negan storyline.
Hmm. So she's a formidable opponent in the comic book, huh?
She definitely is a formidable opponent in and a lot of it has to do with, remember how we were talking before about the idea that these guys have they've got a cult not a theocracy. They have a cult belief system. They are they have their own sort of theology altogether. And it I mean, it really is. You saw a little bit of it in the backstory and the flashbacks. We belong to the world of the dead now. And that is very much how they believe that things are supposed to be. So going forward, if they try to push that on established communities, you can see where this is going to be not just conflict ridden, but then also you add in Lydia, who they don't seem to, I don't think anybody's ready to just give her up right away. That seems to be another big problem too. So just the two of those things together, definitely you can see where they're going to clash.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be something else. I can't wait to see how this plays out. What about you, Olaf? Are you excited?
Oh yeah, it's like I said, it's starting to get interesting. It should be not there kind of now that the Whisperers have come out and they're meeting the other ones. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out.
See, what's fascinating is that whole group that just walked up to Hilltop, right? In a heartbeat, they could act just like the dead, and they would blend into a horde that was walking by, and nobody would notice. That it to me, that the insidious nature of that is so frightening, because that's never been the way that things are, right? I mean, like
Well,
the go ahead.
well, I was gonna say the funny thing, one thing I find funny about the Whisperers is like, okay, they blend in with the hordes, and they blend in with the dead, and they're not spreading guts and stuff all over them. All they do is put a mask on and go and just wander, and the dead don't bother them. In previous seasons and everything, whenever they went in, it's like when the NM would go to walk through a crowd of walkers, they would cover themselves with you know, uh, blood or whatever, the guts and things from a walker, so that they smelt like a walker or whatever. And I find it interesting that the Whisperers, only thing they do is they get a walker, they peel the mask off and or peel the face off and wear the face, and then just kind of you know act like them, and they can just blend in. They don't have to go to all the trouble of you know putting old rotten guts on themselves. I find that interesting.
Yeah, because it means that the walkers are not just relying on one method of identifying themselves.
Right.
Hmm.
Or it's like they're dead and they can't smell, so they wouldn't know that you weren't dead anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the Walking Dead always brings up a number of interesting, if not ridiculous, ideas that don't have no basis in science at all. So we just sort of have
Right.
to, suspend belief and go, oh yeah, okay, this is how it is. But
Yeah.
it does sort of make you wonder, if they're not using, I mean, if they are using visual acuity, it is quite interesting to think about um, what that means for the people that are alive. I mean, let's face it, it's not like nobody but the governor, really, that we've seen so far, has really taken the time to study the dead, right?
Right.
I mean, everybody's got their own sort of uses for them, but no one really kind of studies, well, how does this work and why does this work, and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that there haven't been certain instances in the past. I'm saying that of the groups that we have right now, that memory feels like a very distant and they don't access it. So it is kind of strange that there are multiple ways to sort of cheat the dead.
Right. But and that they can actually, and of course they whisper because they don't want to talk. If they talk too loud, then the dead's going to be like, "Hey, you're not dead. You're not one of us." But how is it they can just put a mask on, uh, walk walk all hung over, and every once in a while just kind of go, "Hey, over here," and they're not eaten alive when they're in the middle of a horde.
Do you think that that's something that they will expand upon in in some of the later episodes?
Probably not. It's like
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think they're I don't see them coming up with the Walker Walker theology of
Yeah,
how to blend in with the Walkers.
I feel like it's very much don't please don't shoot me. I'm not drawing a direct correlation, but I feel like it's very much the Harry Potter kind of idea where you just have to believe that there's magic and then go with it. And
Right.
and just understand that that exists, not question how it exists. Because in The Walking Dead, to question the dead, and see, this actually brings up a really interesting thing. It brings up the idea that the dead are sort of a, a life form unto themselves, right? They're
Right.
not just reanimated humans. They are, but there is clearly something else that sort of goes along with that. And so when we start looking at them as a different life form, then we can attribute different skills is such a broad word, but we can
Right.
attribute different ideas to them that we wouldn't necessarily assign to just a dead human.
Right. Well, I mean, being able to just put on some put on some dirty clothes and a mask and blend in with these mindless food-seeking walkers is one of the questions. How can you, instead of having to spread guts all over yourself to smell like them, you can just put a mask on? The other thing I want to know is who the hell cuts the grass? Who cuts the grass in the show? You go into the towns and stuff like that. The grass is cut. Is there like a horde of walker landscape guys that what landscape walkers that you go through and cut the grass?
No, they have goats. They have goats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
goats. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's the inquiring ones want to know is like who the hell cuts the grass?
I mean, I don't know if they have goats, but I mean, they have horses, so maybe they just like let the horses pasture on the common land.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's as good a theory as any.
I agree.
I know Zach's the one that cuts the grass. That's what it is.
Yeah, in his afterlife, he's the zombie landscaper.
Yeah, you gotta love that zombie landscaper, dude. That's funny. Okay, so we got off the rails. Okay, so
Jen did it. I didn't. It wasn't me.
Sorry.
no, it's all good. I have a little news, Walking Dead news. I was gonna say let me start with the good and then do the bad, or vice versa, but I think it's all bad. So, so this last episode, Omega actually the ratings were really low. It's the lowest. It's like the lowest has been in like. I know it seems like we keep seeing that it hasn't been this low since ever.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. This is the lowest rated episode of all time.
Where was it at in the ratings?
It's 4.54. So
that's still really respectable, though. I mean, damn.
No, the ratings. I've said this a million times. The ratings for The Walking Dead is way higher than than any show, basic cable show for the most part. Um, so
But they're at
it's
4.5 when they
coming
used
down
to be. Yeah, I mean when they used to be like
10 in the
17,
tens.
so, 17, 18, or on an average like in the 14, 15 range, and now they're down to 4. That's a big drop.
But okay, but if I could make a prediction, and I don't know if this is going to bear itself out, it may or may not. But I mean, Vikings does something kind of similar, right? Where it goes up and down in the ratings depending upon kind of what's happening and whether there's social media hype and sort of just a whole lot of other things. But I feel like this is probably pretty expected on the showrunner's part. That is, they knew that Andrew Lincoln was leaving. There's now been the news that Denai is leaving. There's been the news that.
You just ran the story. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry.
I'm,
Sorry.
I'm messing with you. Go ahead. I mean, it's true, but yeah.
We know Lauren is leaving. I mean, like there's a lot of sort of, switching and changing of the guards. There's a lot of, story sort of jumbling. I feel like they probably expected this, and I think that for the rest of this season it will, I don't want to say it's going to be a wash, but I don't expect that the ratings would go up very much from where we are right now. And I don't think until we get to the end of this season that people will decide yes or no that they want to watch for next season, because I believe that what's going to happen at the end of this season is a pretty big event. So if that's what does happen, then maybe it'll pull more people back in. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. What's happening is the show was at such a high, like higher than I mean, even if the show remained at the top level as far as quality, I don't think you could expect it to stay in the territory it was. You know what I'm saying? So because this, Walking Dead was like appointment viewing, people just had to watch it every week, that kind of deal. And you just can't expect it to stay that high. But since season 7, season 8 it started to decline, and now season 9 is even just going lower. But it had so far to fall. Like it would have to, for it to be like a ratings bust, it would have to go down to under 2 million, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't see it falling that far anytime soon, because it still has a huge fan base, So what we're really getting is this is the core audience that still watches it. I don't think you get people who are just watching it, and the core has shrunk too, but it's still huge. It's still, people love it, and
Any showrunner who started a show would, chop off fingers to get the kind of ratings that at the lowest point at this point The Walking Dead is getting. So it does say something about there is a tenacity on the part of the viewers to stay with the show. But I think it'll wax and wane now far more than it ever has. And again, I say this because I've seen the same thing happen with Vikings, where it was like a super popular show, and then depending upon what was happening, it would sort of wax and wane. Was there a big battle coming up? Everybody wanted to tune in. Was there something super backstabby? Everybody wanted to tune in. But then in other shows, when it was just sort of expose and just regular old drama and character building, nobody wanted to
wait a minute.
that, so
Let me look at the Vikings ratings. I don't think
it wasn't as high. That's
right. That's what I was about to say.
No,
compare Vikings ratings.
Well, no, you can, but I think you can compare the dips in terms of how many people actually tune in, not the raw numbers, just the like if you were looking at it on a graph and you didn't have numbers, I think that you would see hills and valleys the same way. Whereas with a lot of shows, you don't usually see those hills and valleys, because the core group of people who are steady viewers, they just stay steady viewers. Hashtag Hannibal.
You and Hannibal.
Me and Hannibal.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's still on too, Vikings. Or is it? Yeah, it's still on, Vikings. Interesting.
Vikings is still on. They announced
They did
one.
20 episodes a season? Jeez.
Yeah, they announced one last season, and then they're gonna have a spin-off.
Oh, wow. Wow. And Michael Hirsch writes every episode.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, wow.
That
Okay.
guy is so prolific.
Yeah. Let me before I hear this is not I thought this was a Walking Dead show, not a Walking Dead show. Yeah. He did the Tudors.
I
Though.
was just going to say that, but you beat me to it.
He did the Tudors, which was a great show. I still got to see like the last 3 episodes of the Tudors.
Oh God!
But where did it go off? 2010. Hilarious. But anyway, so I know this is not a Tudors show either. So and the other news was, of course, Denai Guerrero is not going to be on the show anymore as Michonne. I think she's going to finish up this season, and no one knows, how she'll come to an end on the show. So, hey, Michonne, I thought was a great character when she first started. Unfortunately, I don't like what they've done with her character. To be honest with you, and I always say this. It seems like these shows, when they make you the girlfriend, your character goes out the window. So, with a few exceptions, but that's coming to an end, and I know a lot of fans will be missing Michonne.
I feel like she's making the right choice though.
Yeah,
because she's leaving number one on her own terms, and she's I get it. I mean, especially since they built up the Michonne and Rick storyline so much, and then Rick left, that sort of leaves a big hole. There's only so much that you can put plot wise into that vacuum, and without it feeling really hollow. I don't know. I'm sure that the character Michonne, if we look back at all of the seasons, we would see an amazing character arc that is just absolutely beautifully done. But in these last couple of seasons, yeah, you're right. They really sort of squandered the opportunity that they had with her on other stuff, which, yeah, felt really weird.
Can I tell you the real reason why she left the show?
Why?
So she goes to the producers and said, "Hey, I'm looking at buying a house in Atlanta. How long will I be on the show?" And they told her, "Oh, you another 7 years. You have nothing to worry about." So then she was like, "Yeah, let me get out of it. They're gonna kill me."
That's great.
It's like my days are numbered. Oh no.
That's so awesome.
That's how you find out you're gonna get killed. It's, oh no, you're gonna be on for another 10 seasons. Oh yeah,
That's funny. That's how you determine if you're going to be on the show or not. Like, hey, I'm going to buy a house here. Is that a good idea? Sure, get it.
So, just off the cuff, right? I wonder if this works for other, factors in our lives. I wonder if we could ask other people. So, hey, Kinte, how long am I going to be on the spotlight?
Oh man, for like decades, man. Decades. Man.
Should I come buy a house out in LA?
Oh, even if you pass away, you're still gonna be a co-host. So you'll be using a Ouija board so you can co-host.
Jen says A S T man.
Dude, okay, wait. I just have to say, if that's how it's gonna go, man, your show is gonna be so popular.
Me and my dead co-host. Well, who killed you? K-I-N. Hey, well, we got a great show, you guys. It's like, wait, you just started. No, I think we're going to end the show right now.
You started the show, and
all right. So,
it's like, who killed you? Z-A-C-K.
All right. So let's start off with you, Olaf. How can people get you on social media?
Well, you can stalk me on both Facebook and Twitter at Olaf Barbosa, but just don't stalk too close because I do get nervous and I do have an itchy trigger finger.
I'll have to get a special sound for Jen too. I don't know. Zach McGowan dying.
Oh my God, you guys are so cruel.
It's like, oh wait, well, I can do that for just.
I was gonna suggest something like a dolphin sound or a whale sound.
A dolphin
No,
attacking
it has
Zach McGowan.
Zach going.
Oh, you guys are you're so mean. I'm gonna tell him you said that. You're so mean. Okay, so
how we can
people
H-E-Y.
back from the grave. People can find me on social media at Following Bliss 1, both on Twitter and on Facebook. And I still have my awesome website, which I know we're going to start doing tons more with when we begin Cinema du Fromage. So join Movies Make the Meal and check out all of our in-between stuff.
All right. And you can get me at Kinte F on Twitter. Get our website, indyradio.org. That's INDY radio.org. We'll be back on our regular scheduled night on Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. With all that said, you have 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. With all that said, you guys have a great rest of your week. God bless. And we'll see you next time right here.
Thanks for listening.